Well, everybody, it's finally time. The 2024 NFL season is officially back. And tonight's game, you couldn't ask for a more exciting matchup as the Baltimore Ravens take on the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. In terms of Kansas City, they're looking to do something that no NFL team has ever done. A three-peat, Super Bowl champions. Baltimore looks to stop that momentum starting tonight, game one. Baltimore, obviously, the biggest acquisition they got last season was Derrick Henry. Finally, Lamar Jackson has an all-pro running back behind him to take the load off of him. So hopefully tonight you'll see a lot of running with Derrick Henry, not just Lamar Jackson. With Kansas City, obviously, the story's right there. They're hosting tonight, game one of the NFL season, looking to three-peat as Super Bowl champions. Can they do it? But who can stop them? Obviously, you look at teams like Cincinnati. Cincinnati being a team that, as long as Joe Burrow is healthy, I believe this is a team that could contend for Super Bowl, as well as Baltimore's up there, Miami, the Jets, and a lot of teams like that I think could challenge them. But tonight will be a big test for Kansas City. Can they stop the running attack of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? We'll tune in tonight and find out. There's also a game tomorrow. Surprisingly enough, two games this week during the week, opening weekend. Friday, there's a game in Brazil between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. Now, this game, I wouldn't call it a must-win for Philadelphia, but it's really close for a must-win. Philadelphia started off hotter than any team last season, going 10-1. Like, they were poised to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, and they looked just as good as any team in not just the NFC, but in the NFL. And then all of a sudden, they just plummeted, going 1-5. The last 6 games, the only one they had was against the Giants, and you see how the Giants are now, so obviously not really a very good win for them. And they went 11-6 after going 10-1, and they got bounced out in the playoffs by the Buccaneers 32-9. So the last pretty much half of the season, Philadelphia just fell off and did not look good. So hopefully this game tomorrow is a wake-up call for them to really start off hot again like they did last year, but hopefully they can keep momentum going, because if they don't, a lot of question marks and finger pointing will be at Jalen Hurts, possibly Nick Sirianni being on the hot seat. So it's definitely a must-win game, as close as it could be in the opening game of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. As far as the Green Bay Packers are concerned, I mean, what can you say about the progression of Jordan Love? Last season was his biggest step. Was taking the starting job for Green Bay, and then playing the way they did, and then obviously destroying Dallas in their own house in the playoffs, Green Bay. And they look so explosive offensive with Jordan Love throwing the football. So it's a really tough game tomorrow for both teams, but who's going to come out on top? I'll get into that. As far as the game tonight, I like Kansas City 28-23. I think it'll be a back and forth game. I don't think it'll be a blow up by any means. I think both teams are very competitive, very evenly matched. Both sides of the ball, defense and offensively, I think they both are of the premier teams in the NFL, not just the AFC. And I think tonight Kansas City gets by with a 5-point victory. As far as tomorrow night's game between Philadelphia and Green Bay, I want to pick Philadelphia. Obviously, Philadelphia gets Saquon Barkley, an acquisition that's really good for them. Plus, Philadelphia has the best offensive line in football. So Philadelphia looks to be the better team on paper, but I just like Green Bay better. I like the quarterback better for Green Bay. I think Jordan Love is playing at an MVP type level. He's almost there. I think Green Bay squeaks by. I think Green Bay wins maybe 30-28. I think it's a close game, back and forth. I think a good game for the Brazilian crowd, and I think Green Bay comes out on top in that one. Let's talk about the NFL season as a whole. Who is the contending teams in the AFC and the NFC? Like I said, the AFC, I like Cincinnati. Honestly, that's the top team, I think, in the AFC, other than Kansas City. If Joe Burrow can stay healthy and the receivers are on the field like Jamar Chase, I know they lost Joe Mixon to Houston. We'll talk about them in a second. But I think if Cincinnati is healthy, running on all cylinders like they're supposed to, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals will probably be the representative of the Super Bowl in Kansas City. I feel like other teams in the AFC North, you have to look at Pittsburgh with Russell Wilson at the helm, obviously a Super Bowl champion. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season, but it's different now because Russell Wilson, obviously, with the failed stint he had in Denver, he has to bounce back. This is a career-altering move for him. Can he still go? Can he still, produce in the NFL? We're going to find out with this team who's got a lot of talent on both sides of the football, with T.J. Watt on the defense and George Pickens on offense. So they have a lot of weapons on both sides of the ball. Russell will have to really get going early, and if he doesn't, Justin Fields is right behind him to take over, and that's definitely an interesting story to watch this season is Pittsburgh and the quarterback room. Another team in the AFC North, obviously you have to look at Cleveland. Their defense is explosive. Their defense gets after the quarterback so quickly. And, of course, it all depends on the health of Nick Chubb. I believe he's missing the first 4 games of the season due to injury. And then Deshaun Watson. A couple years ago, Deshaun Watson was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Hasn't been that way since he got to Cleveland. But, again, they look so good on defense. I don't think it matters who's back there for them because their defense is so, so good. So we'll see what happens with them this season. And, of course, Baltimore I mentioned before. Another, obviously, contending teams in the AFC, you have to look at the Jets. Now, Aaron Rodgers, of course, last year, he had as many minutes on the field as I did last year, and that's basically none. So, it depends. Obviously, the Jets are a championship contending team, honestly, on paper. They have Sauce Gardner in the backfield, a defender, obviously Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, running back. They have a really talented team, but it all falls on the shoulders of Aaron. Aaron Rodgers obviously went to New York to become a champion, to win a Super Bowl with that team, and it all depends on the health. We'll see how good his ACL holds up. Obviously, the tear last year was not something he expected to happen, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, the Jets are a team to watch. If they start producing like they're supposed to, they could be a team that could contend into the playoffs. Staying with the AFC East, obviously the Buffalo Bills are a team of discussion. They lost Stephon Diggs, which is a huge loss for that team. And then, obviously, Josh Allen, don't get me wrong. Josh Allen is an extremely talented quarterback, but the turnovers are very evident. They cost him at the most inopportune times, and it's held them back from getting to Super Bowl. I don't want to say that Buffalo's window is closing, but it's very, very close. Buffalo's Super Bowl window is getting there because a lot of teams are getting better. Obviously, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Baltimore. We're going to talk about a couple other teams here. Houston, and there's a lot of other teams in the AFC that are competing and could pass them by Buffalo, including another team we're going to talk about in a second. So Buffalo, I don't know what to expect from Buffalo this season. Obviously, the loss of Stephon Diggs is huge for Josh Allen, but we'll see if he can produce, and we'll see what they do. We'll see what Buffalo looks like, but I just think it's going to be a lot different than people are expecting them to look like. And with Miami, look, you have Tua, who just got a huge contract. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle out there. They got the speed on the receiving side. Miami looks as explosive as any team in the NFL. And if they play to their full potential, they could make a deep playoff run. Obviously, you saw last year, they scored 70 points. 70 on an NFL team. I know it was Denver, but still, 70 points is nothing to sneeze at. So, Miami, how explosive they look on offense, it's going to be tough to stop them. If they're playing to their full potential, I don't know what defense in the league can stop them. I don't know. I really don't. Sticking with the AFC, like I mentioned before, Stephon Diggs went to Houston along with an acquisition of Joe Mixon from Cincinnati. Houston is a pleasant surprise to this league because Houston was so down bad a couple of years ago. They were the laughingstock of the NFL. Obviously, they couldn't buy a win, and then all of a sudden they get rags to riches. They get C.J. Stroud, and he just turns everyone, makes them look at him like, oh man, this is the second coming of RG3 or something. I don't know what it is with Houston, but C.J. Stroud came out there last season and won Rookie of the Year. Did things you've never seen a rookie do on the football field. And Houston is now a perennial playoff team. I mean, that team looks loaded on offense. Obviously, with Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, like I mentioned, C.J. Stroud looks poised to have a greater season than he did last year. He's obviously one of the higher odds to win MVP this year. So Houston looks fantastic. Looks a fantastic team to be poised to make a deep playoff run this season. I like Houston a lot going into the season. Of course, another AFC team you have to look at is the Chargers. Obviously, the Chargers lost Keenan Allen to Chicago. We'll talk about them in a second. Austin Eckler to Washington. So a lot of pieces that Los Angeles had, they lost. But the one piece they got that could turn them around is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh obviously won a national championship last year at Michigan. He goes back to the NFL for a second time. Obviously, a huge success in San Francisco when he was there the first time. Got them to a Super Bowl and another NFC championship game. So we'll see if Jim Harbaugh can get the most out of Justin Herbert because no one really has gotten that out of him yet. He's played well. Justin Herbert is a fantastic quarterback, probably top 5 in the league, but I don't think he's really reached his full potential yet. Jim Harbaugh is looking to do that. He's looking to get the most out of Justin Herbert he can this season. They look at them and see if they are a team that can make a playoff spot. It's going to be very tough going forward this season for the Los Angeles Chargers. So that pretty much wraps up the AFC, I think, for me. Like I said, I still like Cincinnati. Honestly, I'll get to my Super Bowl picks in a little bit. But I like Cincinnati. Baltimore, I think, is up there. The Jets, I think, are up there. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy. Houston looks good. That seems like that's all the teams I can think of. Miami, I don't know. I like Miami, but I don't know if they could compete with those teams when it gets down to the end. I haven't seen it yet. We'll see if they can. But those teams I like more than anybody else in the AFC. Now going to the NFC, I mean, like I mentioned, Jordan Love with the Packers, they look, they are a team to be messed with in the NFC. Of course, the big change in the NFC is obviously Caleb Williams coming over from USC to Chicago. Obviously, Chicago was featured on the Hard Knocks HBO series. A lot of talent on both sides of the ball. They finished really strong last season and adding key pieces. They added Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze from Washington, got over from the draft. They look to have a really, really solid roster. And if Caleb Williams can play as advertised, there's no reason why the Bears can't go 10-7, 11-6, and as long as they're in the playoff dance, they can really compete with anybody if they play to their full potential. I like Chicago for sure, and then of course Detroit was so close to getting to the Super Bowl last year. Obviously, they fell short to San Francisco, but Detroit, you have to like Detroit in the NFC as well. They're a very high quality team, Detroit Lions. Also, I mean, obviously the NFC East is the biggest, I think, focal point of the season for the NFC teams is concerned, because obviously Philadelphia, they fell off last year after going 10-1, and then the Dallas Cowboys, you don't know what to make of them, because honestly they could go 12-5 and 13-4 and no one's going to really care, because they make the playoffs and they lose every single season. The Dallas Cowboys are honestly as reliable in the playoffs as the Chicago White Sox. You really can't count on them. Okay, so obviously I think Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat this season, because if Dallas doesn't make a deep run in the playoffs, if they go 1-out, I think things are going to be changing in Dallas. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb got his contract, but Dak Prescott has not. There's rumors swirling that Dak Prescott is gone after the season. He's going to test the free agency market. Dak Prescott's probably going to go somewhere else. So we'll see how that goes for the season for Dallas. But Dallas is a team that, again, they could have a great regular season. They could have a fantastic regular season, but when it comes to the playoff time, it doesn't matter, because they're just in and out very quickly, and that's how it's been for most of the franchise since like 1995. So we'll see what happens with Dallas this season. Obviously, the regular season doesn't mean anything to me, honestly. So if they make the playoffs, great. Do something in the playoffs, because they haven't done anything since. My sleeper team in the NFC is the Washington Commanders, and I'll tell you why. Jaden Daniels, obviously coming off his Heisman Trophy winning season last year at LSU, looks poised, looks really ready to take this team to new heights. Obviously, Austin Eckler is a quarterback's best friend, I believe, at running back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a good running back. I think that's a really solid running back to have behind him. I know he's second string, but I think they'll use him a lot in screens and a lot of passes to the flat to get a lot of extra yards after the catch. Obviously, you can't talk about the Washington Commanders without talking about Scary Terry McLaurin, one of the best receivers in football. I think it's a really good target for Jaden Daniels to have as a rookie quarterback. He'll throw him the ball, and Terry McLaurin will catch anything Jaden throws his way. Of course, obviously, on the defense, they added Bobby Wagner, which is good for him, because the head coach there is Dan Quinn, who was the defensive coordinator for Seattle at the time Bobby Wagner was in Seattle. So I think this team, obviously, the loss of Jahan Dotson hurts them. Really good target for them to have. But I think as a whole, Washington will surprise people. I'm not saying they're going to go 12-4 or 12-5, but I could see them maybe making a 10-7, 9-8, possibly a wild card run this season. Watch out for Jaden Daniels, and I think he's a possible right up there. Him and Caleb Williams are really neck and neck for Rookie of the Year, and I think it's going to come down to the last couple of games. I really think Jaden Daniels is going to surprise. He might have a C.J. Stroud season, and when it's all said and done, I think Jaden Daniels might be really, really coming out of the gate really well. And keep an eye on Washington this season. I think they're going to be really, really tough to deal with. And the Giants, I have nothing really to say about the Giants. If you watch the Hard Knocks series, they seem like a team ready to just throw in the towel. Obviously, they gave Daniel Jones that huge contract. They got rid of Saquon Barkley, which is a big mistake, because Saquon Barkley is the best player they've had since Eli Manning was there. And I think Giants fans see the writing on the wall. Daniel Jones has not been the quarterback for them. They took him early, and he's not produced. He's been a turnover machine. It just seems like it's not working for them with Daniel Jones. And now you draft Malik Neighbors, who's a hell of a talent coming out of LSU, obviously getting thrown the ball by Jaden Daniels, but I don't think Malik Neighbors is enough to turn this team around. Obviously, they got a good player on defense from Carolina, but I just don't see the Giants doing any better than like 3-14, maybe 4-13. The Giants don't look that good to me, and it's going to be a tough season for New York fans, especially for the Giants fans are concerned. And it just seems like the Giants are back to the drawing board. They're probably going to draft a quarterback next year. It could be Shedeur Sanders. It could be Quinn Ewers out of Texas. There's a lot of good quality quarterbacks in the draft coming up that they could look to. Dylan Gabriel, Carson Beck. There are quarterbacks out there, and that's what probably the Giants are going to end up doing, is drafting a quarterback in the 2025 draft, because Daniel Jones is not the answer for the Giants fans. It's just not. Going to the NFC West, The San Francisco 49ers honestly looking to reclaim what they were last year as a Super Bowl contending team. Obviously, they got Super Bowl and lost to Kansas City. Heartbreaking loss, but they bring back a lot of talent. They bring back, obviously, Nick Bosa on defense, Brock Purdy as quarterback. They got Brandon Ayuk. They got his contract. They got Trent Williams on the offensive line. They got the offensive MVP and Christian McCaffrey. I don't think there's anything that can stop them of winning the NFC West. Obviously, there's teams there that I look at with the Rams. I don't know how good they're going to be. I know how good Stafford is, but I mean, they have to. I think they're going to be better than they were. And Seattle, people are talking about Seattle. I'm interested. I'm a Seahawks fan myself. I'm looking to see how they do. Obviously, Geno Smith is playing well, they think, in practice and preseason. I think he's playing well. You still got DK Metcalf. You still have Tyler Lockett. You still have Jackson Smith and Jigba. You still have Noah Fant out there, Kenneth Walker. They have a good offensive team, of course. It's the first time in a long time that Pete Carroll's not on the sideline. Mike McDonald comes over from Baltimore to coach the team. He's trying to coach up that defense. Obviously, you have Devin Witherspoon back there. Julian Love, who I know personally. So we'll see how this team does. I'm looking forward to see how Seattle. I'm not expecting anything from Seattle. That's how I kind of got on it since they lost all the key players they had. But I think Seattle will be better than people give them credit for. Will they get to a wild card? It's possible. But I'm just watching to see how things go with Seattle this season. I think it should be interesting. But I think San Francisco is the team in that division really to contend for a Super Bowl. And of course, with the quarterbacks I mentioned, obviously Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, there's another new quarterback in a different place. That's Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. Now, Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that has had probably a rough patch of time with him. You know, he got drafted by the Washington Redskins at the time and was the backup to RG3. Then RG3 got hurt and he took over. And then he gets traded to Minnesota. That was his team. Obviously, having Justin Jefferson is as good a weapon as you can have in this league. And then he gets traded to Atlanta and he gets a huge contract. And it's like he's thinking this is his team. And then they go out and draft Michael Penix out of Washington in the first round. So if you're Kirk Cousins, you can't really feel too good about that. But however, they have a lot of good weapons on the offensive team with Bijan Robinson as running back and Kyle Pitts as tight end. So hopefully Kirk Cousins can utilize the weapons that he has. But I'll tell you right now, if Kirk Cousins does not produce and not play well in the opening couple of games, Michael Penix is sitting on the bench ready to go. So that division for me, honestly, is a two-team race between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. I don't see much out of Carolina this year. They lost a lot of pieces. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey being out. Bryce Young, obviously a rookie quarterback last year, obviously had a rough patch of things. We'll see how they do, but I don't expect anything from them. And then New Orleans, I don't know what to think about them. Obviously, Derek Carr came over from Vegas. They have Michael Thomas, receiver, and Alvin Kamara, but I just don't know what to feel about them. I think Tampa Bay and Atlanta are the better teams in that division, I feel like. Those are the teams to look out for this upcoming season in the NFC South. So that's pretty much what I feel about the teams this year. Who I think is going to get to the Super Bowl from each team. Like I said, I'll say it again. As long as Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are healthy and Jamar Chase is on the field and they play how they're supposed to and for the potential, I think they're there at the end of the year. I really do. As far as the NFC goes, it's tough to say. You could pick Green Bay. You could pick Detroit. You could pick Chicago if you like. You could pick Philadelphia. I just don't know who I feel like I like in the NFC. But for the sake of this video, I will say Cincinnati takes on Green Bay. I think Green Bay makes the... I could change my pick at any time, but it's just at this time, I guess I'll pick Green Bay. I think they pick up where they left off. But I think Cincinnati's my lock. I'm not backing from Cincinnati as far as my Super Bowl pick. But who do I think is going to win the Super Bowl? Obviously, where's the Super Bowl coming from? Louisiana. Who played college football in Louisiana? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I feel like, is going to come out this season and just prove people wrong after his injury. Obviously, there's talk that he's injury prone and stuff like that. I think he's going to come out this season and really play well. I think he's going to win MVP. I think Joe Burrow is going to win a Super Bowl this year, a Super Bowl MVP. And I think it's time to crown Joe Burrow Super Bowl champion. Because honestly, if you're not a Chiefs fan, he's really the only one that could stop Patrick Mahomes. We've seen Josh Allen not do it. We've seen Lamar Jackson not do it. So if you're not a Chiefs fan, you're rooting for Cincinnati because it's been proven that Joe Burrow can beat him when it counts. So we'll see what happens this season. I'm excited. It should be a lot of fun. Tonight should be a lot of fun. We'll see how many times Taylor Swift is shown on camera. But I think I speak to everybody. It's glad that football's back, not just pro football, but college football is back. 2 games tomorrow and today. Can't ask for anything better than that. Of course, the game's set for Sunday. Should be a lot of fun this weekend, and I'm looking forward to it this year. It should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. Keep rambling on. But that's going to do it for this video. I will recap the Sunday games on Monday. So expect another video on Monday of recap of what we saw week 1 and where teams stand going into week 2. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I really appreciate it if you did. We're going to post a lot more content on here. NFL stuff, college football stuff, tennis stuff, wrestling stuff. It's going to be a fun ride. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Let me know you're enjoying the content. And share it around. You know, I'm trying to rebrand this channel as a sports-centered channel. And anything you could do to share it around, I'd greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the football tonight, and I'll see you back here on Monday. Thank you so much for watching.